Hi, my name is Randall Crippen, Solutions Consultant at Tech Data Corporation, supporting the Microsoft Azure business. Today I'll be going through setting up a hybrid domain controller, replicating from my on-premise site, utilizing the virtual network that we set up in previous videos. So here we are in the Azure portal. We're just going to go down to New Virtual Machine, and we'll select From Gallery. And we'll just use the standard Windows Server 2012 data center copy. We'll give the virtual machine a name. In this case, I'm going to name it TD Azure-ADC02, because this will be my second replica domain controller that I've built in Azure. And we'll give it 2 cores and 3.5 gigs of RAM. Create a username here and put in our password. Now this, of course, will be temporary. After we get it joined to the domain, we'll be able to log in with our domain credentials. Now I'm going to go ahead and assign this to my second cloud service so that if I decide to do any kind of load balancing within the OS, I can do that. And we'll put it on our private IP address space within our virtual network and on our existing storage account. Go ahead and click Next. We'll go ahead and install the Microsoft anti-malware and click Finish. So it'll take a couple minutes here for that to provision, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that for you, and we'll come back once that's all provisioned and get to the Active Directory portion. Okay, and we're back here. Our domain controller has been spun up within Azure, so we're going to go ahead and log into that virtual machine. So select the virtual machine and click Connect, and open up the remote desktop connection. Then use the username and password that you created at the time you created the virtual machine. And because this is the first login, it'll take a few moments for us to get logged into the system. So we'll go ahead and skip most of that for you for the sake of time. Alright, so here we are. We're at the Server Manager main page. The first thing we're going to want to go do is go to our local server, and we're going to want to enable remote management. So just click on the disabled link and enable remote management and click OK. Next, we're going to want to go and add roles and features, and this will be a role-based or feature-based installation. We'll select the only server from the server pool. And at this point, we'll add our Active Directory domain services, and of course add any additional features that are prerequisites for that role. Go ahead and click Next, and Next, and Next one last time, and we'll go ahead and click Install. So this will take a few moments to install, but we actually have another task that we can do in the meantime while this is going on. So I'll go through that with you while we wait. So Microsoft actually doesn't recommend that you put things on the drives that come on the virtual machine. So what we're going to do is attach a couple storage drives to our virtual machine to house our Active Directory database, as well as some shared user data. So here we're back at the Azure Management Console. We just minimized the virtual machine. And we're going to click Attach on that virtual machine, and we'll create, say, a 32 gig drive for our Active Directory database, and we'll click Attach. Alright, so now that's attached. We'll attach one more empty disk here, and this one will be for our shared user data. And we'll make that 50 gigabytes in size, and we'll click OK. So now what we want to do, we want to go back into our server now that those disks have been attached, and we're going to go down to Computer Management. And now we want to click on Disk Management. As soon as we click on that, we should get a pop-up window that says you have a couple disks that have been attached to your machine. So you want to go ahead and click OK and initialize those. So right here you'll see disk 2 and 3. We click OK, and now those disks are online. The next task we'll need to do is create a new simple volume and format the drives. So we'll go ahead and go through that process. We'll assign it a drive letter, And then we'll give it a label. For this one, we'll call it AD database. And secondly, we'll go to our second drive. And we'll create another simple volume. Give it a drive letter. And we'll call this share. All right, so you'll see we have our two drives created there. Our domain services have installed in the background. So now we need to go ahead and promote this to a domain controller. So we're going to put in the fully qualified domain. Note that these machines are already able to talk to each other because of the fact that we put it on the virtual network that's connected to our local machine. So we can go ahead and put in our domain credentials now that are authorized to join the machine to the domain. It'll pull up our list of domains in our forest. And we'll go ahead and select tdazure.local and hit OK. We'll go ahead and hit Next. Now we have a couple options here, whether we want it to be read-only or something like that. In this case, we'll just leave it at the defaults for this demonstration. Put in our password and click Next. Click Next again. We're going to let it replicate from any domain controller within the domain, so we'll go ahead and click Next. Now, one thing we did here, because we moved those drives, we want to remember to look and change the drive path of our Active Directory database. So in this case, we're going to put in the F drive, and we'll go ahead and double check that on our File Explorer just to make sure we got it right. So if we open up File Explorer here, we look at F, and that's our AD database, so we're good to go there. And we'll click Next. Click Next one more time after the prerequisites. It'll validate that everything looks in order here. And we can go ahead and install our AD services. This will take a few moments to get done. So we'll come back to you once this has completed. All right, now we're back, and we have our domain controller now promoted. So we're going to go ahead and reconnect to that machine, but now we're going to use our domain credentials, because now that we're joined to the domain and promoted, everything has synced between on-premises and our Azure server. So as you can see, I'm going to log into my TD Azure ADCO2, and here we have it. We log in now as a domain user. And what we'll do is we'll go and look at our Active Directory list of users, and we can verify that everything looks in order. So if we open up our ADDS and right-click it and click Users and Computers, we can expand our domain and go into the Users folder. And as you can see here, all the users from my domain have now synchronized to this server. So now you have a fully replicated domain controller sitting within Azure, replicating from your on-premises network. The last thing you may want to consider doing is assigning a static IP. And we'll go ahead and minimize that. And then there is a quick PowerShell commandlet that we can now run and assign a static IP to that virtual machine. It's important that you do this via PowerShell, because if you were to do this from within the OS, you would actually lose connection to your virtual machine. So we'll go ahead and type in the command to change that IP to static. And you'll see it's get Azure VM and the name of the VM. And then we're going to provide the service name, or our cloud service name, which in this case is TD Azure LB for load balancer. And then we're going to set the Azure static virtual net IP address to 192.168.1.7. So this will actually go and update that VM. We had already connected PowerShell to the cloud, to my Azure account. So we're going to go ahead and let that run. And when that machine comes back up, it will be assigned at 192.168.1.7. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions or need additional help with Azure, reach out to your local tech data team, and we're more than happy to help. Thanks, and have a great day.